Adel Al Deeb was an engineer when he arrived at the Trucial States in 1957, and he was well established with his civil engineering projects across the country. In addition to this, the main significant factors that influenced his role in aviation was his military background training that shaped his personality, and his diplomatic governmental role that created well-connected bonds between the rulers of the Emirates. In 1960, he became the Secretary of State to the ruler of Fujairah, and in 1970, he became the chairman of Fujairah Civil Aviation. On 16th of May 1971, he became the founder and chairman of the Trucial States Flying Club and School. The school offered a significant role before and after the union. Captain Adel's intention was greater than just to train pilots. He helped strengthen the bond of a newly formed nation by bringing people closer together, by spreading the news of the capital and connecting the country to its neighbors with flights across the region up to Pakistan. All graduates would receive their private pilot license from Pakistan as well. The school served as a private aviation as well, transferring businessmen, diplomats, royals, medical aides, patients, and journalists. My father had once transported a woman in labor despite the plane's lack of medical emergency equipment. He had also established a private hospital in Ajman in 1970s. The school was then renamed to Sharjah Flying School, and in celebration of the union of the UAE, my father changed the name to UAE Flying School. Along his adventurous journey, he stumbled through many obstacles in his life, and his desire to fly was born spontaneously when he found himself parachuting from a plane into the Libyan desert while he was just a teenager serving the British Army in the World War II. From that moment, he had the passion to fly, began his army training, and graduated as a civil engineer from Lebanon. When His Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan asked my father to set up the flying school, my father without hesitation agreed and took on the mission. And in 1970, he had gained his private pilot license from the UK Board of Trade in England. My father would tell me beautiful capture stories of his childhood, growing up in Farmatta in the Alay district in the mountains of Lebanon. Whilst growing up as a teenager, he studied and earned his pocket money by running errands for a British general that lived in the mountains of Lebanon. He liked my father very much, and he's the one who gave him basic military training, and also he encouraged him to join the World War II. When the British general passed away, he left a portion of his wealth to my father. In return, my father was able to graduate and also set up his own business. My father had never forgotten him. My father's role model was Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, and Sheikh Zayed had honored my father with several civil engineering projects across the country. My father had executed his projects and developed a reputable and trustworthy relation with His Highness. The honor and respect my father had for His Highness was a transformative point in his life when he realized that the Trucial States will be his home forever. Sheikh Zayed was a driving force of this nation, and my father would proudly talk about Sheikh Zayed's legacy as the wise man of the Arabs. My father's ambition to be a pilot was meant to be real only through Sheikh Zayed's vision, as he demanded the best education for his people. Sheikh Zayed's positive energy and weaving hope was contagious, and you can see that with my father's imprint on his flying school and his students. For many children and adults living in the desert, to experience the skies was only a dream at that time. My father could relate to what it feels to have an ambition, but not being able to pursue it due to the lack of opportunities and resources. Learning from His Highness Sheikh Zayed, a generous and noble leader, my father initiated the support of many young generations and encouraged them to learn to fly. Upon the establishment of the flying school in 1971, my father immediately took to the skies in support of Sheikh Zayed, his presidency, and the newly formed nation. An exceptional leader and a visionary who loved his people and everyone around him, my father was one of the luckiest to be accompanying him at that time. Only his vision came to reality through Sheikh Zayed. His special relationship started off with the rulers of the United Arab Emirates when he landed the Trucial States in 1957. He was an investor and became very well established with his business across the country. His reputation preceded him. On his arrival, he met with His Highness, late ruler of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Shahbout, but his relationship continued to strive with His Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan. My father became closer to Sheikh Zayed, executing his construction projects, such as building of schools, homes, and a defensive wall on the Abu Dhabi coast, and he had accompanied His Highness on several desert trips. Sheikh Zayed got to know my father very well and about his military background, and had offered my father in 1960 to support His Highness Sheikh Mohammed al-Sharqi, the late ruler of Fujairah. My father was quite hesitant because he didn't want to leave the side of a great man, but he also felt honored that His Highness had trust in him. Therefore, he accepted the mission and moved to Fujairah. As a Lebanese, to have gained trust, loyalty, and respect from Sheikh Zayed is self-explanatory of how his relationship was with His Highness. In 1960, he left to Fujairah, and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed al-Sharqi had a warm welcoming for my father and appointed him as a Secretary of State, a Fujairan diplomat, and had given him the Trucial State's passport. My father accompanied His Highness Sheikh Mohammed al-Sharqi on his overseas mission and was his envoy to negotiate the union between the Emirates of Fujairah with Abu Dhabi, His Highness Sheikh Zayed, when he became the ruler of Abu Dhabi in 1966. In 1968, Sheikh Zayed had asked my father to establish a flying school while still serving His Highness Sheikh Mohammed al-Sharqi. As a Fujairan diplomat, he had bonded good relations with the UK government and had travelled to England regularly. In 1970, my father contacted His Highness Sheikh Zayed and asked him to allocate the land for the flying school, as he had already purchased 6 planes from the Elstree Aerodrome from London. Upon my father's return from England, he headed to Fujairah, and Sheikh Mohammed al-Sharqi appointed my father immediately as the chairman of Fujairah Civil Aviation. His Highness Sheikh Zayed had already negotiated with the late ruler of Sharjah, Sheikh Khalid bin Muhammad al-Qasmi, to set up the flying school next to the British RAF base, which is today Al-Mahatta Museum. My father proceeded immediately in construction of the school. He built the boundaries, the school building, and the hangar. And on 16th of May 1971, the school became operational. The rulers across the Trucial States had a warm welcoming to my father, as he was invited in any majlis. They enjoyed his presence and his great sense of humor. They liked him for his free-spirited and welcoming nature. He was generous, kind, and helped anyone in need, especially newcomers into the country. When he would enter the skies of any emirates, he would occasionally fly over the ruler's palace and greet the ruler by an aerobatic maneuver. Upon the transition period of the United Arab Emirates, my father was granted the passport issued from Abu Dhabi, which is today displayed in Al-Mahatta Museum. Unfortunately, the flying school had to come to an end in 1982, and in 1983, His Highness Sheikh Ahmed bin Rashid Al Naimi, the ruler of Ajman, had offered my father to serve the United Arab Emirates Embassy in London. My father was well known for his services, sincerity, and dedication to the UAE and its people. And even on a personal level, he would help all the UAE citizens that were in need in London. Subsequently, after 7 years, my father had the privilege to meet His Royal Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan as the President of the UAE on his 4 days official state visit to UK in presence of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth on 19th July 1989. It was a historic visit for the relations between both the countries. In 1997, my father paid his final visit to His Highness Sheikh Zayed in his Abu Dhabi palace, and His Highness Sheikh Zayed had expressed his gratitude towards my father and told him, "You have served this country with loyalty, Adel. What is there that you desire, so I fulfill it to you?" My father, like many, served this country with love and loyalty, and not waiting for anything in return, he arrived as an investor and became the son of this country.